So the scene opens up on a small room. For the audience, it feels really warm, like maybe you're sitting in front of a campfire and you've got 15 blankets on. It's just that kind of it's comforting but almost oppressive warmth inside here. And there's several like little candles, that sort of thing, that are kind of on the floor, lit right now and casting odd shadows along the room's walls. It's small, and as our eyes adjust to what we're seeing, we see it's a small bedroom, and there's a bed over on the side. There's a chest of drawers over next to it. There's a rack along the other side of the wall that has a couple of musical instruments on it. One's a small harp, and another one is a banjo that's hanging there. Looks like they've got a bit of dust on them as we're taking a look. And the room is empty. There's nobody in here, but those candles are still burning. And we look over on the wall, and we see that there's been some drawings kind of put onto it. Kind of odd-looking, stylized writing that we can't quite make out. Maybe as an audience, we just don't understand the language. And but there's a part of it that looks, kind of sifting through. There's like little flaps of parchment and stuff that are kind of wafting in some unseen breeze or unfelt breeze. And we look and we see, as one of the parchments kind of flips up, we see lyrics written down. And the lyrics, they start off with something that seems familiar, and at least to us, based on the last episode. And it starts off with the words... Nope, not the bell. It starts off with the words, "If we could see tomorrow, what of your plans? No one can live in sorrow, ask all your friends. Times that you took in stride, they're back in demand. But I was the one who was there, washing blood off your hands." And then we see the last parts of the lyric as the flap kind of comes back down, saying, "Don't cry tonight. I still love you, baby." And then it kind of fades away. And we step back from the wall, and all of a sudden we hear a thumping at the door to the room. And it grows a little bit louder, a little bit louder, and then it stops. And then after a moment's pause, the door bursts open, and we see 4 shadows in the hallway outside the door, and the light is so sudden that it kind of brightens the screen too much, and we can't see faces, we can't see any kinds of features or anything. We just see these silhouettes outside the door, and the scene fades, and then we hear music pick up, and it's the familiar music that we heard at the end of the last episode. And we hear drifting water, we hear scrabbling, a little bit of movement, that sort of thing, through the cobblestone, maybe footsteps here and there. And then we hear that music, and the scene opens up, and we have our 4 party members that are standing outside of the home, noble house that they've come to pay a visit. So what do we see the group of you doing outside of the Gilgersu noble house?
I think we were walking away, weren't we?
Yep. Nice and slow and dramatic.
I know Deekin was trying to get in, but Grymand grabbed onto him and stopped him, right?
Yep. Grymand still has firm... Deekin is riding Grymand's shoulders, but Grymand has one hand holding his tail so that he can't get free without some great feat of dexterity or strength.
Okay. All right.
And I don't want it that bad. I don't want it so bad that I'm gonna bite him to get out.
Right.
We might have words.
All right. What about Lady Sssibilant? Is she's still in the guise of the Pale, right?
Yeah, so she's going to remain as the Pale until we get out of sight and then return to her normal Sssibilant form.
Okay. All right.
So for the time being, she's kind of staying in character and just kind of wobbling and spinning a bit like she's in some sort of stupid movie musical.
And for all
you know,
intents and
singing in the
purposes,
rain on everything around her.
there you go. For all intents and purposes, you have become Palatheria Benatara. So you're her, at least for now. Maybe you're not liking it so much because, you know, again, you had that rivalry, but at the same time, you're a little worried about, you know, what does it mean if she has taken off or been captured or something to that effect.
Mm-hmm.
So, how about Tambor? What's
Tambor's
how Tambor doing?
He's kind of running his fingers through his dreadlocks and looking back over his shoulder as he's hearing the music still, and it's pretty evident the song in his mind is a buzzkill. So he's just kind of, I don't know, he looks kind of bummed. He's curious what's up there, but he knows it's not really in his business. So he's just surprisingly quiet as he's just got his tambourine at his side and walking with the crowd.
Does he walk a lonely road?
No, never.
So you mentioned that this song is a kind of a bummer, that sort of thing. Maybe Grymand, do you recall why this song is that much of a bummer?
The song is. He and I both did some thinking, listening to it, just from our past experiences, things that we've performed, things that we've heard and learned, and it's a source. It comes from a source of lament. You know, this is a broken heart expressing itself. It tends to be very intense, and in certain cases, such as possibly this one, it's a very from the soul apology.
Mm-hmm.
I hear an echo of myself. Just saying.
A little bit, maybe a little. I don't know. Maybe make sure your headphone is close by and not near the mic. But it's not. It's kind of faint. I'm not hearing it too much.
Okay, just a thought.
Okay. All right. So, and then Tambor, you're kind of picking up that vibe, right? That's kind of why you're.
Yeah. No, I think the song sounds very. I don't know. It just sounded very sad. I'm trying to remember what Tambor remembered about it. I think someone had sung it with him before, or had played it with him before, or something like that.
It was you had heard it in the office of Lincoln.
That's right. I had heard Linka sing in his office.
Different lyrics.
Right, with different lyrics. That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And the odd thing being that nobody's really heard Linka sing in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
That's right.
He's just kind of put that away for the time being. But yeah. So cool. All right. So yeah. So you guys walked away from the Gilgursu noble house and found, you know, they were somewhat of history buffs, musical history buffs. They've got a pretty vast collection of various sheet musics, books on musical history in the region, that sort of thing. And that the group of these missing individuals had performed there, or at least two of them had performed there. Maybe Krim had helped with the setup not too long ago. So that was kind of like part of the information that you gathered from here. And obviously the butler's behavior may have caused some questions to be raised and that sort of thing. So, all right. So where do you guys wish to go? What is your next stop in this investigation?
I believe we wanted to go to Kazim's. Is
Okay.
this still true?
I think so.
Yeah, it's a good place to pick up information at the best of times. I bet it's a good place to pick up information at the worst of times.
Okay.
Grymand seconds this move.
Yeah, weren't they seen after the show at that house with Kazim or at Kazim's?
Mm-hmm.
Let me pull up my notes.
They had,
Plus, I mean, this is the kobolds, so.
so he's like, you're totally.
People go and they hang, and that's how they find gigs and stuff outside of official assignments.
Right.
Exactly.
Also, I feel like he has coffee. I don't know why. Is that like some sort of profiling? I feel like coffee was mentioned. I might just want some.
It could be a thing. It could be a thing that shall be added to the annals of this story in this realm. So I dig it.
Kazim runs a poetry corner.
poetry corner with coffee and
Oh yeah, with the finest coffee.
yeah, overly
See, now I
expensive.
just can't picture anything but Dot's poetry corner from.
I
anime.
know. I try not to, but
Nice. Nice.
That's poetry corner.
Perfect. That works.
Oh, trust McNeil.
So if you guys want to make your way over there, it's closer towards the dock side. So I'll just read the little blurb here for our audience. Kazim's Wanderers. It's if there is any group you should know in the city for both their fame and infamy, it is Kazim's Wanderers. Led by and named for the crafty kobold Herodotus Kazim, the Wanderers are a group of city agents for hire, handling deliveries of all shapes and sizes. And the old kobold is not limited to his clutchmates either, seizing opportunities to hire the occasional halfling, even a mermaid or a svard or an adept, who are small and adept at weaving through the city streets and canals like blood in the veins. Well-known fact is Kazim's willingness to deliver anything, no questions asked, so long as the coin or favor is right. And of course, that also includes rumors and chatter around town. So yeah, so you guys can definitely head into that area, and I'll do this. You guys should be on the map in Roll20, so I'll kind of give you an idea of where you're going. You're going to be heading over Mia. So you'll have to cross over using one of the canal boats and that sort of thing to make your way over to a warehouse district where Kazim is.
That's a hike, man. How long does that take?
Probably going to take you about an hour to get there. And I think we're dealing with it being around midnight already. Or was it, no, actually it'd probably be about midnight by the time you get there. Somebody may have to time check me in the notes, but I'm pretty sure it'll be midnight by the time you get there.
Is the guitar pick with the D20 on it what we're talking about? That's where we're headed?
Correct.
Sorry,
That's my little.
Still up.
Sorry, yeah, no, that's fine. That's my little map marker I devised. So yeah. So cool. All right. So
That's
you
good.
guys
Well,
want to make your way there?
As we're walking,
Mhm.
Grymand is quiet as he is wont to be, and he's thinking, and as he thinks, he kind of taps his fingers. He's like a musician. He always thinks kind of with a rhythm in the back of his mind. And a little ways away, he stops. They're well away from the noble, but they're not really maybe even halfway to Kazim's yet. But he stops and he puts his hand on Tambor's shoulder. And he says, "My friend, I must express grave concern from the depth of my heart at the state of your relationship with Monica."
What are you talking about, man? She's cool, right?
She could be cooler. Save the temperature.
All right.
Is this like a Sverfneblin thing? I mean, I know that's not really the norm around here, but I mean,
I do not believe she cares for you as you do. I've seen this circumstance before in the quarterly Ladies in Waiting, in which a young maiden of the town threw herself at the betrothed of the Lord's daughter, and he went to this maiden who was so willing and fair and ruined his prospects.
I'm looking
And
over at
fell
Deekin,
into dismay.
Deekin now with confusion on my face. Is Deekin looking back with confusion?
I think I'm just kind of giving you a straight look.
What's she on about?
Naively oblivious.
So,
I just wish you to be aware.
what do you not like about her?
Come on, he's looking at you, and he looks over to. Are you not pale now?
Yeah, I turned back to Sybil at some point
Okay.
when we were traveling through.
Looks to Sybil. I cannot explain. Will you help me? And then back to
I'm afraid
Tambor.
that may take more time than we'll have. Suffice it to
Alas.
say, she may be a poor match for a man of your talents.
Oh, well, that's cool. I mean, that's nice of you to say, but I mean, she's really cute and she's been really nice to me. I mean, you saw how she was earlier. I mean, she's going to help us get into the what's it called? Into the rainbow tunnels. And I mean, I mean, it's not that
There's-
serious. We're just having a good time.
There's a phrase and a term for those who do certain things for coin.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
I do not use it
It's
in
not gonna
polite
happen.
society.
One might say that, like the most stereotypical of dwarves, she is a gold digger.
Oh,
I know a song about that.
Gold.
So Tambor kind of scratches his head, jingles the bag of gold on his belt, and just kind of thinks to himself. He's kind of nervously tapping his tambourine. You can tell that he is slowly processing what he's been told, but he's thinking about it.
gotcha.
Well, is he tapping out any particular rhythm?
Probably Gold Digger.
I was
Well, if
thinking
it's-
that or Gold Dust Woman, so I didn't know which one.
You guys have left me behind. I'm sorry. I have a
We-
very
we-
specific
We
focus.
just took an R&B turn there. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's okay, but I'm assuming we're a band. The reason I asked is, if you're playing something that we would know, there's
No,
no
I'm not-
reason we
It's
wouldn't
fine.
start tapping along in the same rhythm.
No, I'm not intentionally
Okay.
trying to start it. I'm just thinking to myself.
I'm just saying, we're a freaking band, dude. We can walk down the street singing.
Well, the cool
I
thing
don't
here
think
though
as
is
non-dwarves we're allowed to sing that song.
oh my,
We don't have to sing that song.
that's our song. Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. But
Cultural appropriation.
But no, well, the cool thing is though with this group, and especially I've seen it with Tambor, is that as he passes certain things, he'll pick up a rhythm. Like he passed that tavern, and all of a sudden he was kind of beating the rhythm along with it and using his tambourine and stuff. And
Come here.
no, I think that's cool. I think it's cool, especially because it's kind of mood driven, right? So deep in thought. Very nice. I'm digging it. Okay, let's see.
And that moment gone, Grymand will continue to walk.
Gotcha.
Inwardly upset with himself for not being able to articulate as the good lady Deirdre Wagon. Sorry, that's the first name I could think of.
Someday.
I love it. Okay, cool. Right on. I am going to grab this, and I forgot I was going to upload a picture of Monica, so everybody will be able to know what she looks like should she happen to show up at some point in the game. So, because you never know. You never know that kind of stuff.
Well, hopefully.
So yeah, so you guys travel along. Is there any other conversations you guys want to have, or shall we move along to the district in question?
Guess we're fine with a screen wipe.
Just going to wrap up.
so.
That works.
Travel montage.
Travel montage, playing music. You happen to pick up a giggle on the way, and then no, I'm just kidding.
I like to dream.
Nice. Okay, cool. Now I got that song in my head. Gosh darn it!
Between the sound machines.
There, you just might as well just finish it. Just go ahead. All right, so you guys are heading over to an area called Highwater. It's kind of a low caste district where a lot of warehouses, that sort of thing, are located, and it also is where, dock workers, that sort of thing, they'll find, little dive bars that are there to hang out, gambling establishment using air quotes. And then of course there's the proliferation of the warehouse district, where there's always like some areas here and there that just don't see any use, at least not in proper books and bookkeeping ledgers, so to speak. It is the place where the underworld can be found, and connections to it. Now, I'm not saying that the Yuan-Ti are here, because I think they are more of a higher class criminal, or not even a criminal. We're just knowing that they're organized, right? They're just organized.
Entirely law-abiding citizens.
That's right. Very organized, very posh, and probably wouldn't be down here.
It's well known that you do not find snakes under rocks.
Right.
We paid
Are
a
you
great deal of
kidding?
money to ensure that the textbooks say that.
Well, also, snakes like to bask in the sun, don't they?
I don't know.
Well, that is true. We don't like to. Snakes don't like to hide anywhere. You'll never find them in like holes.
We flash to like
was in
this
the-
like area where there's a bunch of archivists like all tied up and gagged while there's a bunch of Yuan-Ti like writing in books and stuff and scratching out pictures and everything. And then we flash back. All right, so you guys arrive in this area that's not as smell good as some other areas can be, and of course this is a canal city, so you kind of have that to go with it. But yeah,
Is this a classy canal city, or is this a dump where you want canal city?
it's a classy city. I had weird thoughts that there was a group of mages that worked together with elementals that helped kind of clean the canals ever so often, that sort of thing, to kind of help with it. But there are some areas where people can't afford that sort of service, and this is definitely one of those.
That is the lamest job for a mage ever.
Well, when you're only a hedge wizard, man, what are you going to do?
True, but at the same time, you get to talk with ancient elementals who are, you know, you get to bargain with them, so that might be kind of fun.
Fair enough.
Workaday wizards, it's got to be a
can't
thing
wait.
somewhere.
It's going to be good, Deekin. I can't wait. All right, so that's right, Workaday Wizards. I like that. I'm going to write. Somebody write that down. Leslie, tell me you're writing that down. So, Workaday Wizards, down with it. So, yeah, so you guys arrive in the area. Now, who here's been to this district? Have you guys... All right. I would say Deekin. Yeah, that would probably be an Avi there.
Probably, honestly, not Grymand, since he's a product, effectively, of at least upper middle class. He would, and such a fan of propriety.
Right.
He probably wouldn't go to seedier places without someone taking him there,
Right.
or unless he got lost.
And there's not a lot
not
of
be
buttling.
entirely
There's not a lot of
unlikely.
buttling going on down here, so probably wouldn't have you here. That works. Okay. Anybody else might have been down here?
Tambor's definitely been down here at some point, playing a gig somewhere. He's never been to Kazim's, though.
Yeah. Who brought you here? Was it just you? You decided, hey, I'm going to take a chance, or?
I would imagine that when he first came to Sapphire Harbor with his prior troupe, they probably played some shows in this area. They were not exactly the classiest group of guys on the planet. So they probably played down here, and so he probably hung around here until he got hooked up with Linka's group.
Yeah, and most likely the types of songs that you were singing with that group really appealed to like the merchants and sailors and stuff down here. So that probably worked really well. Cool. Is this where you met Monica, or where did you meet her?
I mean, Monica's a new thing. She kind of showed up in one of the shows recently that I was playing with this crew, and she was just smitten with my charisma on the stage.
100%.
The remarkable skill of Tambor the Unrelenting. And so, yeah, that's just, I mean, this is like a 2-week-old relationship. It's real fresh.
Oh,
really
so
sweet.
new. So new.
Wonderful.
Honeymoon phase.
Oh, yeah. Heck yeah. 100%. Love it. How about Lady Sssibilant? Any...
Of course, Lady Sssibilant or Regina have never been seen in this sort of area.
Right.
There's however a half-elf that occasionally comes here on business. Kind or another.
Sorry.
Those are
He's
nice
from
earrings.
sort, probably
She
of
sends
low-
a half-elf servant down here ever so often to, like, you know...
Who just happens to be about the same height.
Yeah, roughly the same height.
Yeah.
Possibly a few inches weirdly missing if someone were to tap her on the head, but you know.
Yeah. Why would you do that? It's not as rude.
Who did she let get
She's
that
so-
close?
Yeah, right?
Nobody that lives to tell the tale.
You get away from me. I love it.
Does this taste like poison?
Does this cloth smell like chloroform to you?
Smell my finger. No. Wow. That's not ladylike. That's not ladylike. Sorry. All right. So yeah. So we arrive in this area, and maybe as we screen wipe into this, we start hearing like the ribald talk of sailors and an idea.
Sorry. We should totally have a Peter Jackson cameo. You know, it just kind of comes on screen, makes a face at the screen and stumbles away.
I will say you're Peter Jackson.
Yeah,
I'll raise you as Samuel L. And
Do you have a puppy in the background?
No, I've got it. So Peter Jackson is there, and then Samuel L. Jackson's character comes up behind him, mugs him, and drags him off into the alleyway. This is too bad of a town for Peter Jackson's cameo character.
You say that, but his cameo in Hot Fuzz was kind of hardcore.
Yeah. And the last thing you hear is like, you know, I have your money. I'll get you your money, please. Where's my money, man? Sorry. All right. So yeah. So we kind of like skirt past that. We edge around that little scene right there. You are starting to see, you know, some of what you would term Kazim's wanderers, kind of wandering around, milling around the area. There's I don't know. What are you looking for? What is it that you're specifically looking for? Are you going to try and walk right up to the base of operations, or are you going to circumvent?
Coffee bar.
Well, we're trying to find information on why they were here last.
Okay.
So
Anything they might have talked about, anything like that.
Okay. And Grymand, you mentioned potentially using this like a coffee shop of some kind, and maybe that's what it is. Is this? There's one little warehouse that Kazim has used for years now, where he ships and imports and exports coffee beans from areas around the realm.
Oh,
And
maybe this is where he actually does tastings. So he actually his main focus would be the import export of fine liqueurs and coffees and fancy drinks.
So now, because of the location, is this kind of like hipster chic, or is this like?
It would have to be partially hipster chic, but
Yeah.
it's also kind of that get the taste of walking on the dangerous side without actually walking on the dangerous side, because he wouldn't let anything happen to proper customers.
Bad
Gentrification
business.
is just beginning, is what I'm hearing.
But so, you know, it's like for every nice little crate of coffee beans, the crate seems to be about 4 inches taller than it should be for the amount of beans inside.
Right. Because coffee is a well-known ability, has a well-known ability to obfuscate certain things that may or may
it just
not be.
smells so nice. It's distracting.
Yeah, right. So you guys arrive at Kazim's place. Who wants to name it? I have a name here that I could use, but if you guys want to be the ones to do the honors, I am more than happy to allow.
Kazim's a kobold?
He is.
Trying to
Any
think of a
ideas?
pun involving coffee and kobolds, but
Scaled coffee.
Coffee to
That's
scale.
not very good.
Coffee to scale.
I like that.
Oh, nice. Nice. That's
Because that
going
kind of
in.
like rolls in that whole like joke about stuff coming in that wasn't supposed to be there.
All right.
All sorts of things have
Let's
scales.
see. Import, export, business.
This is why it's nice to be the first
With
group to come
a-
to a location.
That's right.
And all these
English.
people that come after us are going to be like, what is even going on in this town?
Yeah,
Why was Samuel L. Jackson in our alleyway?
All right.
what's the name of this place? Group 2 is terrible.
Group two. Oh my gosh.
Team B,
Catch
go
up.
home.
Catch up group 2. No, I'm kidding. All right, so it's hipster chic, and it is called Coffee to Scale.
Yes.
All right.
It's that industrial look.
Industrial.
He's the one who's making industrial cool just because he doesn't want to pay to decorate.
Oh, oh yes, yes, that's so good, so good. All right,
So he
making
definitely
industrial
wears
cool.
like hipster glasses and
And a scarf.
Right.
He's gonna have a scarf.
Well, I have a picture of him here where he's got like this kind of like chic-looking turban with a sash on it and stuff.
Oh,
and then-
that's great.
So let me make sure everybody can see it.
Yes, please.
Yeah,
show
I've
me.
seen
Is
it.
it in roll 20?
It is.
is.
If you go over to the, there you go. I'll show
Kazim's
you.
Wanderers.
Blammo.
Oh yeah, I remember that guy.
that is perfect.
But yeah, but now he has to have like the.
He
the
even
pipe
has
and
like a goatee
sunglasses
thing
and
going
stuff.
on.
Heck yeah, of course.
Oh, that's awesome.
So chic. So chic.
So when we walk in, Tambor has his stein in hand already, and he starts wandering around, and you can tell he's kind of agitated because everywhere he turns, he's finding plenty of spigots, but all of them are, coffee. There is no available beer to fill his stein, and he's even like wandering back behind the bar. I figure he's just an employee there with his dreadlocks and his weird outfit, and he just kind of shakes his head and throws a stein in his bag and goes back, stands behind Lady Sssibilant, and says, "What are we trying to get here? What are we looking for?"
For some reason, just entering here made Lady Sssibilant's earrings kick on a pair of like bottle rim glasses and a scarf.
Hells yeah.
She's like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
And we've been doing this together, this group thing together long enough that there's not even a double take from the rest of us. We just look over like, yeah, that's about right.
So that
Already fitting in.
Yeah. So yeah, so there's like a mixture of people in here, and as we were mentioning, there's some folks who like to live on the dangerous side, and they come down to the high water district, and they say, yeah, let's slum it over at Kazim's and at the coffee to
and
scale.
buy $5 shots of coffee.
Yeah. And I think there's like there's a dwarf on a barrel, like a big giant barrel that he's standing on. This cask, right? And he's just standing on it, and he's got a wood block in his hand, and you can tell, like, he's waving it around. You can see he's scrawled something into it, like he's carved something into it, and he's doing slam poetry right now as you're like walking in, and he's
is he actually slamming things with the brick?
Exactly.
Probably.
Exactly.
Awesome.
So like he's like slamming things next to him, and he's like railing on about how dwarves don't float. And he's just going on and on about it, right? And there's people around him just like, yeah, man, yeah, that's great. There's actually a group of kobolds, like about 5 of them, that are all kind of huddled around a big looking kind of siphon tower with coffee and like little like almost like a hookah pipes type, kind of sprawled out like an octopus, and they're sipping on the coffee, and they're all bobbing their heads like this as they're listening to as they're listening to that, they're listening to the dwarf. And you find the dwarf has like a rhythm to the way he's like busting out his rhymes. So yeah, so you guys maybe it might be. so you guys arrive on the scene. You're here. So who do you want to? There's all sorts of folks around. There's employees, and we can start kind of describing them as we go. How do you want to make your approach?
I feel like for all of his not picking up on things in many other circumstances, Deekin really gets the way kobold operations are run,
Right.
because he's a kobold, and that's an innate instinct for them. So I'm sure there's somebody around here who's always willing to share, a kobold who's always willing to share the information he knows with another friendly kobold. So I'd like to find that guy.
Would you like to scamper down my shoulder and dismount?
Yes.
Would you like to dismount?
Probably just go right down your arm head first.
So good.
Like a squirrel
I love it.
Yep.
off a tree. Just awesome.
And off into the crowd.
No, that kills. That's killing it. I love it. All right, so I think let's jump into our first roll of the evening. So, do you think that you're using persuasion to kind of talk with folks, or are you doing like an investigation? Do you think?
I think in this case, it would actually be more investigation.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Anybody helping him out, or is he kind of doing this kind of lone wolf or lone lizard?
How busy it? Yeah, he can't be a mammal, clearly. Right. How busy is this place?
Oh, it's packed. The place is probably around 3,500 square feet. So it's sizable. It's tall. It's a warehouse. It's a converted warehouse. And it smells of coffee. It smells of pipe weed. It smells of other things that are in here floating around. It's packed to the gills. There's probably upwards of anywhere between, say, 100 to $150 in here. It's to capacity. Because there's racks and there's tables and there's a little stage and there's this little place where the dwarf is like kind of jumped up on top and has got his crowd around him, and then there's obviously the places where they store the coffee bags and stuff like that. So yeah, it's packed, and there's a variety of people here, but there's a lot more. There's more orcs. There's a group of goblins over in the side, and they're like hacking at a half-cooked piece of meat of some sort, and they're not really drinking coffee. They're drinking some weird-looking like orangish sludge that they're going at. And then
Rebos.
yeah, and so I mean, there's all sorts in here. Name it, you'll probably find it. And
Patrick, I sent you a little private message on the chat box.
How do you do
Cool.
that?
I actually thought about it for a second, Jeff, and I don't think actually investigation fits Deekin style. It would be persuasion because he kind of does that whole like charming, sweet, endearing kind
Chirpy.
of thing. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh, I'm friendly and harmless. Talk to me. That's kind of his thing. So
dig it. Let me. I'm resizing the window. I realized that it's not going to catch the roll result into the window here. So I want to make sure
Well,
that
that's-
gets in there.
I am aghast, sir.
I
I'll be
know,
right
right?
back. One
Get
second.
your stuff together, GM. All right, we're good. So yeah, so let's do it. Let's do an investigation
persuasion check.
or persuasion. I'm sorry. Gosh, you just got done saying that. The persuasion.
You were
Oh
resizing
my
things.
gosh, you killed it.
What? Where? Where is it?
The
I
chat.
got a 27.
There's a chat, the little chat bubbles in roll 20.
I'm in the wrong window. I'm so bad at this. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Holy
no wonder.
cow.
27, man, you killed that. All right, so
I'm
what is
really
this?
good at being charming and endearing.
Heck yeah. So what is it? Who do you go
Plus
up
there's a
to?
butler involved.
Who do you go up to?
I start making the rounds with some of the kobolds who actually work here or hang out here on a regular basis. Maybe when I say work here, not so much work the coffee shop, but work for Kazim's other operations and just are kind of staged out of the coffee shop.
Okay.
So the ones who make information and things their business, and so we're on good terms.
I can dig it. So, so yeah, so you approach a group of kobolds. I don't. Is it the same ones that are kind of bobbing along with the performance, or is it a different group?
Well, sure, yeah. Some of those.
Right. So yeah, so you're kind of like weaving your way through the crowd and stuff, and like in between the legs of like one particularly tall orc who's got this giant drum on his back that looks like he's probably waiting in line to perform. And then you just make your way up there, and as soon as you get through the crowd, one of the group there spots you, and like all of a sudden you have one of the little coffee dispenser pipes is like being flung towards you, and yeah, so you grab that, and the one that threw that to
He does
you,
not need coffee, and we need to stop that.
yeah, no, that needs to stop right now.
And dude,
It's okay.
this has got to be like espresso.
Oh yeah,
It's okay.
yeah,
This is for lizards. It doesn't affect us that much.
that's right.
Much.
So let's see. I'm gonna come up with I need to come up with a surname for this one. Hang on one sec. I'm thinking. Half. No. Let's see.
I think that there should be another coffee shop, like a to-go type coffee shop or cart somewhere in the city that's run by. It's an offshoot of Kazim's, but it's called the Caffeinated Kobold.
Noise. It's got to be done, and it's with K's, of course.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right, so yeah, so you make your approach, and it's Besetby Ginscale, who tosses you one of those little spigots, and
I'm sorry, Giuseppe. What?
Besetby. I put it in the show note or in the chat window there.
Okay, not Giuseppe.
No, Besebty Ginscale.
Decepti.
Yeah, Besetby, however you want to pronounce it. So,
Scale.
Yes. Hello, Deacon. Long has it been you've been here? Where have you taken yourself these days?
I have been around, seeing here, there, seeking out knowledge of Skarnax the Great, but otherwise,
Long may his fires burn his servants.
yes, he is great and terrible.
Ah, the most terriblest, of course. Yes, so tell me, are you with those long striders there? Are they your friends?
They are. Tonight, we are actually seeking knowledge of some of our other friends, who we heard were here recently, but have gone missing.
Tell us, who is it?
Alicia Axburner and the Pale.
Oh,
Are you familiar?
The crazy knoll, yes.
Yes, the crazy knoll.
Nobody works a pentatonic scale like he does. It's amazing. Base faces melt. Love it. After a few of these,
And he like holds up the thing.
there's nothing like hearing Elysian play. Yes, he was.
And he looks over and like he's like nodding to one of the others they're all starting to kind of like pay attention. They're kind of like birds, like looking and like watching and stuff. And they're like, hey, what's up? Hey, hi. That kind of thing. And they look at each other and they think for a moment.
Say, yes, they were here, 2 nights ago, looking for, what were they looking for? I don't know, I cannot remember. They went into the tunnels for a brief time, maybe for part of the evening, and then they came back. But what else did they? I mean, they were looking for gigs. They were looking for information about the. What was it?
And then one of the other ones scrambles over. This one, I think you remember the name as Neferi. Nefere. He kind of clambers over and like spilling coffee everywhere, and he says,
The laughing cleric. They were looking for the laughing cleric. Yes, laughing cleric boat.
Huh. The Laughing Cleric boat.
Yes.
Very interesting.
So interesting. Of course, it was very interesting.
Well, thank you.
Neferi like nods, and he's like,
Yeah. Have you listened to the dwarf? It's the first time I haven't wanted to chew their beard off. This one's good.
He's got good rhythm. I like his rhythm.
Yes.
Very nice.
everybody, like all of you are like kind of like bouncing along. I'm trying to make sure like bouncing.
You're doing good.
So they're all like kind of like bouncing along with you and everything and listening. So what are the other three of you doing while Deacon's off gathering info?
Go ahead, Leslie. Patrick and I are working up something.
Suspicious.
Ninja notes.
This is
feel
not
so
L5K.
alone,
Or L5R.
alone. All right. Well, this is Grymand has heard of the coffee and has heard of Kazim, but his only real experience with coffee would be what they would serve at Mirami's or what he would have seen with his lady, and that would have been like a nice little afternoon coffee with little frosted biscuits,
I like
Like-
this stuff.
light coffee, and pinkies up type stuff. So he is feeling excessively out of place. This is chaotic, and it's not like he's on the stage and it's chaotic and he's looking into it. He's in the chaos. So since Deekin just kind of skittered away, like he do, and just if Grymand were to look at you two, are you guys actually up to something visibly, or are you just standing around?
We're probably talking over in the corner.
Okay, so you guys have already separated yourselves.
Yeah.
Okay, so Grymand is now alone. So he's going to do what he does when he's alone. He's going to find a spot that is as out of the way as possible, probably in front of some crates or, a big mock roaster, something for display for the little people. And he's going to stand very, very still and just watch. Because he doesn't know how to behave in this situation. This isn't familiar to him, and he doesn't want to make the wrong step. He doesn't want to be out of place or to offend someone, because that's just not proper.
So stand back in the corner and watch.
So yeah, he's gonna step aside, abandoned by his teammates, and he's gonna just basically be himself, which amounts to standing still and being beautiful.
And beautiful he is. So while he's
Grymand
standing
the
there,
Glorious.
being glorious and watching the room, does he notice anything?
Don't tell me
He
that's
probably notices Tambor walking up to the orc with the drum on his back.
Okay.
What do I need to roll here?
challenging my roll 20 skills. I love it.
Which one of us?
Let's see. For what you're looking to do, I'd say persuasion probably.
I'm gonna add some gold to it to
You roll with advantage.
give
then.
advantage. So how much gold seems reasonable?
I'd say 5 because odds are they can earn quite a bit just from people tossing gold their way, literally just flinging money at them.
Cool.
Noise. Didn't even need the advantage. He had it. Okay, so yeah, he looks. Hang on. Gotta prep my voice. He looks down at you, and because I mean this guy's about 7.5, pushing 8 feet tall.
Right.
And you know this big drum is just it's almost like a timpani basically on his shoulder, and he looks down at you and he says, "Hello, half brother. What is it you wish to know?"
Hey man, I'm just been kind of jamming with this lady over here, and I'm wondering if we could get ahead of you in line here. We got to make a quick night of it, but she wanted to get up and do some of her poetry. Is that cool with you? I mean, I'll make it worth your time as I kind of show the 10 gold pieces or 5 gold pieces.
10 gold. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. 10 gold. Yeah. He'll push the dwarf off the stage. But he looks down and you see like, you know, you actually see the glint of gold in his black eyes as he looks down at them. And then he looks over at you and then he looks over at Lady Sssibilant and he says, for you and your lady, he looks over at Lady Sssibilant and says, "You need someone to keep the beat for you."
No, I got that under control, brother.
I bet you do. All right. Yeah, sure, no problem. I'll go get something to eat. Come back.
As the dwarf gets down off the barrel, I'm going to drag an empty table over, which seems more fitting for Lady Sybil to stand on. Okay. And the spotlight goes onto the table, and he kind of drifts into the darkness, and you hear the tambourine beat starting as Lady Sssibilant walks toward the table.
Nice. Well, you're muted.
Oh, you're muted.
You're muted. No.
Don't lose it.
Let me begin hissing. Bards are missing. And just going into a long, like, beat poetry thing. And while she's doing that, she's actually going to be using her enthralling performance to try and charm the listeners.
And the goal is with the tambourine to give advantage.
If you're already leading off with some smooth dope lyrics, man, of course, I'll go with that. Yeah. So you're doing a performance then. It'll be our first performance of the evening. I'm digging it. Let's roll it with advantage, man. This is so good.
The goal here, just
oh my gosh!
FYI, the goal here is to draw the attention of Kazim and for him to actually come down from wherever he is and to have a conversation. So. Oh
my gosh! You friggin' smoke it, dude.
Okay. Is green a natural 20?
That's nuts.
Yeah,
that's a natural. Yep. That's a crit right there. Yeah. So. Okay, so hit me with the dope rhymes, man. So what do you have? If you have something prepared, I would love to hear it. If not, it's all good.
Basically, I can't think off the top of my head of enough lyrics, but essentially trying to do a beat poem about the
missing bards.
The missing bards. Have you seen 22 Jump Street?
Yeah.
No. Jonah Hill's thing when he's doing the beat poet about the missing girl or the girl that died.
Gotcha. Okay.
Something like that, only presumably slightly better.
Gotcha. Now, do you mention names in this, or is it just descriptions?
Names and descriptions. Not a particularly kind one of Moon, but enough to be pale, but enough to be accurate.
I like Moon, actually. I think that's what you should call her, just to annoy her.
Anorexic, skin thin like paper, but missing, and we always want to hate her.
No, all right. So okay, I can't do that well, but yeah, no, that's
still pretty good.
That's pretty awesome, man. I like that.
And this actually is a specific power of mine as a glamour bard. I can charm. Listeners have to make a wisdom save or be charmed for an hour.
Okay.
I think I can only target 4 specific, but Kasim and then anyone else who looks like they're kind of basically as I'm going through, anyone who looks like they're kind of suspicious or like might be trying to like. Basically, those who are listening who seem to like recognize anything, trying to target them specifically.
Right. Okay. Let's do it. Let me do this. Wisdom saving throw. Let's see. That's a
No idea what the
wonder.
difficulty is. Is that my performance check or is that just my spell?
It's usually your modifier.
Yeah, your
It's
spellcasting
10
Yeah,
plus
whatever
your
your-
spellcasting modifier and proficiency.
Yep.
That's
Yeah,
right.
so charisma plus
target is-
proficiency.
Okay, so that'd be 17 because I have a 18 charisma and 3 proficiency.
Don't we all?
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Casting time, level, bard, warlock, blah blah blah. All right. So what does it look like while you're spouting these words? Is there certain movements that you're doing? Is there actual lights coming out? Is there smells or something like some kind of exotic like perfume?
Ooh, glitter. Like you've got glitter on your eyes. It just catches as you move.
Yeah, it's definitely glitter. When she kind of jerks her hand, there's like a
trail of sparks.
yeah, like a trail of sparks towards the people that actually look like she wants to really get their attention.
This is so cool.
I'm digging it. You know what? And you know what? I'm not even gonna roll. That's pretty. You critted it, so I mean, I'd have to crit myself, and I don't want to see the DM do that because I just like the idea. It's pretty awesome.
We'll save that for the life and death situation.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Roll death saves. So okay. So I think you get the attention of the entire place, right? And like I think like we start to see people kind of turning their heads and looking and like just like, what did she just say that? What? You know, like people are just kind of listening. You see
How'd
the
she
orc.
find 3 rhymes with orange?
How do you rhyme with orange? She just rolled with orange. Oh, you know, so everybody's just like going bonkers, right? And even the orc is like sitting there. He's got like a ham hock in his hand. He's about to eat, and I think whoever he was about to buy it from this halfling, and the halfling's still holding on to it, like dangling, and they're both watching. You know, as you're spouting these inflammatory rhymes, and they're piercing into the hearts of the people, and they're wondering, where have we seen them last, and how can we be so lost in ourselves that we forget people among us? And so and so I think the music kind of, or the beat, the tambourine that's going, you actually hear some of the other musicians start to kind of like follow the beat a little bit. They're like, whatever instruments they're using, they're adding a little bit of more of a percussive tone. And then up from above, like in the back, there's like this staircase that goes up and disappears into the darkness, and then it leads up to this upper office where presumably Kazim holds court. And we always see is like we come into this office, we're like about 2-3 feet off the ground, and we see this big giant desk, right? It looks like it was probably underwater at some point, but it's like if it at the height of its beauty, it was like the presidential desk, right? You know, it's just completely elaborate and decorated, and it's got inlays and stuff, but a lot of that is warped and everything because it's probably been underwater for a long time. But we kind of come in and we see a couple of chairs. There's about 3 gnolls. There's 3 gnolls that are standing in here, and they're just kind of like they're playing a dice over on this standing table, and they're just kind of like rolling dice back and forth and like yapping and snapping at one another. And then we turn and we look at the desk and we see two clawed feet just kind of like kicking it up onto the desk, and we hear the creaking of a chair as the feet come down, and we see Kazim with his turban, and he's got these like kind of half shades that are on down at the bottom of his nose, and he stands, he leans forward. He's got this long pipe that's probably about as long as his torso, right? And he's like, what the devils is that sound? Somebody tell me that is that Lady Sssibilant? And he like climbs up unceremoniously onto his chair, and he looks down over this window that kind of pushes out into the warehouse. And he looks down, and you can see, I think actually at that moment, Lady Sssibilant and Tambor, you lock eyes with Kazim as he looks down, and he sees you. So what's the reaction you want here? Do you want him to come down, you said, or do you want him to have you come up?
Does it look like anyone else seems like they want to like volunteer anything, or like they're really lost in thought about?
They're lost in thought, dude. You've like moved some people. There's a couple people in the back crying, Like, where have our loyalties gone that we don't know when somebody's missing? And then,
I think we just picked up 8 NPCs for the party.
yeah, right? I mean, just
Forget band, man. We're a symphony.
yeah,
Wrong
forget
edition.
this, man. We're rolling. We're gonna take over.
All right, we got an hour. Let's make use of these people.
Yeah, exactly. So you there's it's up to you. Like, if you guys want to like head on up, you'll get the nod from Kazim to come on up. If you want to talk with some folks down there, I'm sure there's some people who've been moved to disclose information. So
Yeah, let's go up there.
Up to you,
Yeah,
man.
let's talk
Maybe
to him
along the
first.
way you can chat up some people.
That sounds like a good idea.
Now, in the meantime, we have Grymand, who has found a perch, so to speak, for his divine frame, and as he's looking out about the crowd, and you're actually seeing like the waves of emotion and stuff. And I think maybe had you not been so privy to this type of music from Lady Sssibilant before, I think you would have been susceptible to it as well. And I think you even spot Deekin and his group of friends. They're all like hanging on each other. Like, 2 of his friends are crying right now, shedding reptile tears, and they're all like you're all like kind of celebrating or clanging your dispensers together, and one of them like cries over to you. I think it's Neferi. He says,
I don't understand. Why didn't I pay closer attention? Maybe I could have seen them before they were gone.
oh! He's like crying on your shoulder right now, Deekin. So
Makes
You're already at
sense.
the bargaining phase of grief. Well done, Patrick.
yeah. So
I'm here to
Tam-
change lives and find bards.
That's right. When you're changing lives. I love it. So Grymand, tell me, you're doing kind of an investigation of the area, or are you just doing a perception? You just want to kind of get a general feel of the crowd and what's going on.
Anybody think of something that's not a wisdom check for me to roll?
I don't know. I mean, I would. You just do some kind of perception check or something. Just see if there's anybody that is like clearly like not just not impressed with the song, but maybe like unnerved by it. Everybody's like weeping and hanging all over each other.
Someone
Somebody looking
unsettled in a more
Yeah.
direct way.
Yeah, somebody looking suspicious.
Yeah.
I guess
That might
either
be-
insight or investigation or perception.
If you're kind of going on the emotional side, I would say insight. And I think with the enthrall going on, I would more than happily dispense another advantage to your roll on this, just simply because it's such a good group effort. So yeah, if you want to roll that with advantage, that will.
Okay, so
Perfectly
give me a
good.
second. So we've got those 2 up there. Well, we've got Sybil visible.
Rough.
Sorry.
Well, that's about the opposite of the previous roll.
What just happened?
Everyone
Did
is
you
guilty.
did you click insight? You were ready to
did.
roll, or you did? Oh, okay.
yeah.
Sssibilant
Leslie,
did.
it's
Okay.
I made an inside roll. I did not succeed at it.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I was about to say, I
got a
hadn't
1
even
and a
opened
2.
my character sheet.
Lady Sssibilant, you own this crowd.
You can't do worse than she just did at that roll.
Oh, dude.
That's pretty close to.
I should introduce you to my first bard
Yeah.
and her familiars. No, so Grymand is familiar with this. He knows how the party works. He knows that Sybil goes for the like she attracts the attention. She knows that Tambor is like the perfect support, whether it's visual or in this case, he's in the shadows, so nobody really can see what he's up to. He's just back there being cool.
Right.
And Deekin is in the arms of his weeping friends over there. But Grymand kind of knows how this goes down. He is familiar with this situation, not necessarily in this direction. Like, it's like we're not usually playing, Scooby-Doo and the gang.
Yeah.
But so he's looking out over everything. And he's thinking.
Taking it in.
I don't know how hard he's thinking. Oh, God.
Oh man, he hard.
Whoa!
What just happened?
You
Just
double
rolled-
critted.
You double critted.
Good God.
How did that even happen?
Well, you rolled 2d20s and got 2 20s.
Oh
sorry.
my god.
That's 3 tonight.
So I think like
So that's a 1 in 400 chance, everybody.
yeah, that's pretty hardcore. Pretty hardcore. So yeah, so you're looking out onto the crowd, and so you're checking the temperature of this room. You're sifting through the faces and stuff. I mean, maybe this is something that you had to do when your previous employers had people over for company. You had to kind of watch and see when people needed something and what
Oh,
they
definitely.
needed, that kind of thing, right?
Not actually what they needed. That was, in fact, the butler's thing. But when you have people to the house, when you're in a position that Grymand's masters were, you would not always have friends over.
Mm-hmm.
So the beautiful thing about having living artwork, aside from the fact that he is beautiful, is he can see without really being seen.
Mm-hmm.
So he wasn't always that good at it. It was a hit and miss, but he did learn to read some facial expressions or body language from watching, like at the dinner parties, you know,
Right.
having the rivals over and whatnot.
Okay. All right.
So he knows a little bit.
Okay, dig it. So, I think you're looking out on the crowd, and some of the
Yes.
easiest things to kind of like dismiss, I suppose.
Alright, bye.
I think some of the easiest thing to dismiss, I think,
will.
would be
Bye.
the emotional stuff. The folks who are moved by the music, not so much thinking about what the context is. They're just thinking, oh my gosh, you know, these missing musicians, how can you waste this kind of talent, that sort of stuff. And then there are those who are kind of curious about it. They're watching and they're thinking, God, well, who could be behind it, that sort of thing. Who could did they run away? Was it a competition? Was it, you start kind of hearing like, a few names here and there kind of tossed around. Was it a competing musician group, that sort of thing, that would have grabbed them, or at least maybe recruited them, that sort of thing. There's a name that gets tossed around, Avianos, Avions, and he's an elf who is particular about his musicians, and he's always looking for new talent. But he also gets rid of the talent as quickly as he gets them, because he just throws them away. He finds what he wants, and then he decides it's not good enough, and then he tosses them out. So there's, they're thinking that maybe they might have gotten picked up by him. But then you see, I think maybe you're kind of like following the ebbs and flows of the emotion in the room, and you see there's a group of Smurf that are in the
Monica prefers Smurf Nevlin.
Smurf Nevlin, there you go.
Undergnomes.
Undergnomes that are they're at a table in the back. It's actually a table on top of a table. They've managed to take like a spindle, and they've put it on top of a table, and then they've brought up like little half stools, and they're like sitting on a table, right, so they can see over. And they're big like they've got like these big bowler hats on, or I should say bowler hats that are tight on their big heads. And they're smoking cigars. They're like, about as big as their hands and stuff. They're like holding, like doing that thing. And
I'm sad that I wasn't looking at the video for that.
Oh no, they're just smoking the pipes, or smoking the cigars. And so they're listening to the song, and then they all kind of like they're listening, and then one of them like elbows the other. And then they look at each other, and they're like looking at Lady Sssibilant singing, and then they look at each other, and they're like, nah, like that, it can't be. And then one of them punches the other and says, like that, and they start like pointing downward, like this kind of thing, and they start to get up, and they start to leave.
They start to leave.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Hold on. I need to see my spell list real quick.
Thunder wave. The
Vicious mockery.
humanity.
Kill them with insults.
Yeah.
I don't know that I took vicious mockery. I
know I did.
Okay. Question. If I click on that, will it... I'm not rolling for this if it accidentally rolls. I just want to see if I can look at it.
Yeah, if you go...
There's the spell card.
Yeah, there is a spell card there. If you hit the
That's
little
what I was
gear,
looking for.
you hit the gear on it, and it'll open it up.
Okay. And it's 20-foot cube. I get to choose the light, but not where the fire goes.
This is for, what is it again? It's
Fairy fire.
fairy fire. Let's take a look. Take a look.
It's each object within a 20-foot cube within range.
Good.
And everything in it sheds light in a 10-foot radius.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
Yeah, so each object in a 20-foot cube within range is outlined in a blue, green, or violet light. Any creature in that area where the spell is cast is also outlined in a light if it fails a dexterity throw. Let's see. Yeah. And
Okay.
yeah, it's a 10-foot radius of light.
Radius of light. Okay. Sorry, that's how I think.
It works for me. It's a bard's song. It's a bard's game, so singing is appropriate.
All right, so Tambor and Sybil haven't made it upstairs yet, have they?
Let's say they're ending their song right now. I would say.
Okay. And this is when they're moving away?
Correct.
Are they coming towards me?
Yeah, sure. I think maybe where you're parked is like near the staircase that leads up to.
Well, I
that
meant
leads up to casinos.
the Sverfneblin, the Undergnomes.
Oh, the undergnomes. No, they're just now kind of clambering down from the table. The table on
Okay.
the table.
Do you have
How-
message?
I don't know. Do I have message? I don't
It's a
think
cantrip.
so. I do have message, but that's a lot
I'm in the middle of the
Less-
room with a whole bunch of kobold buddies. You could send me a message.
interesting. I'm
It's
hopefully
anyway.
sending it back to look. Did it let me? There we go. Okay, so yes, I'm gonna see if this is okay for what I
Okay.
want to do.
Sure.
So Tambor is moving out of the shadows. Sybil is descending to insane applause because people are weeping and rending their clothing and just blowing their noses and insane. And this group of undergnomes, they're kind of shuffling down and away as best they can. And then I can see Deekin across the way, and I can see them coming. What I want to do is Grymand is going to, in a swift action, just like, and I don't mean that like an actual official action-y thing. It's just in a graceful movement. He's
Okay.
going to unsnap the thing that holds his harp at
Yeah.
his side,
All right.
and he's going to hold it, and he's just going to run the hand the full length of this maiden harp. It's only like a foot and a half wide. It's just a cord. And as he's doing that, he's going to cast fairy fire around him. So, it'll hit some people, it'll hit some won't, but it'll just illuminate, like, bam, everybody will look at Grymand. And he's in this ridiculous pose. And then he points a finger at Deekin.
Okay.
And he whispers to Deekin with message, just like, you guys ask me if I can't do this.
It's
And
working
says,
fine to me.
Undergnomes moving towards the door or something of the like, just to catch his attention.
What do you want me to do about them?
That is up to you. I'm just drawing attention to it, but now I have every single person hopefully in the room looking at me.
Yeah, we're looking at you too. Like what is he doing
What's
over there?
happening here?
And so he points, and then he just brings his hand back in a fist towards his chest, like, emotionally. And he says, things that are lost in darkness can be found with some great light, but things that are lost in darkness will often put up a fight.
What?
And he just poses and bows his head, and then he goes back to standing normally.
So I look at Lady Sssibilant. What is he talking about?
And I think like the group, because they're kind of enthralled in the emotion of this emotional wave, right? They all like raise their glasses or whatever they're smoking or whatever, and they say, "To our missing," and, kind of like, "May they be found," like in all these various languages and grunts and responses.
Does
So
Lady
look,
Sssibilant have any idea what's
Darlings,
going
you
on?
can't leave now, and clearly draws the attention towards the Underdomes.
Yes.
Okay.
You want them to stay?
Yeah, well, I'm trying to get the crowd to keep them here.
Well, I can keep them here if you want them here.
I think she's trying for something a little less direct than keeping them here.
So does Tambor get the gist that these people are people of interest and they're trying to get away?
I don't know. Give me an insight check. Let's see.
Probably not too many people leaving this bar right now.
Yeah, it's going to be kind of crowded, but
Yeah.
His insight.
so they're
is
going to
right.
stand out one way or another. Whether or not you pick up, that's
Yeah,
why.
you're getting it.
Okay,
You're getting it
so
pretty easy.
I've got my tambourine out already. Suddenly, behind Lady Sybil, she smells rose petals
What?
as a spell is being cast.
Okay.
Nice.
And here we go. Let's see here.
Oh, hi, little one.
Oh, brothers.
He's upset.
Oh wow, you're
Yes.
casting sleep.
Yep, I am casting sleep on those jokers.
Sleep.
That's the effect of 5d8. So 20 characters in that cube. I assume that'll get all of them.
I think it's 20 hit points worth of character, if I remember
Is
correctly.
that how it works? Let me see here.
Where is it? Oh, it's you. Okay. All right. I didn't know who it was.
Yeah, so 20 hit points of characters affected by it. No saving throw. So starts with a creature has the lowest current hit points.
And
Each
works.
creature affected by the spell falls unconscious till the spell ends. Takes damage, or someone uses an action to slap or shake the sleeper awake.
Nice. So the effect is 20 hit points, right?
Yeah, starting with the lowest hit point character and working our way up.
Okay. Let's see here. I think
And
we've
this is
got
on the Sverf Neblin.
Yeah.
the Smurf Neblins. I'm going with it. I love it.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think like they're starting to
Smurf
kind of like
Zeppelins.
get up and like tighten on their bowlers, and a couple of them extinguish their cigars down on the little spindle that they were using as a table. One of them downs his drink and is kind of leaning back to finish it, and then he just keeps leaning back. he tips back onto the table and then onto the floor, and then another one is like going, "Hey," and then he collapses as well. A third one is kind of looking a little groggy, but he like shakes his head a little bit, and he's looking down at the other two, and he's looking at the fourth companion that's there, the last of them. So it's just these two left, and they look like they're about to jump down off the table and run for it.
So I'm going to let Lady Sssibilant kind of continue up to talk to Kazim. I'm going to run over to the guys as though I saw them fall, and try to help them. So the other guys are like trying to split.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not going to happen either.
I'm gonna also.
Should we roll initiative or something? I don't want to totally just rip these guys off.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Let's do it. You did kind of. I mean, it's sleep, and I do like. I'm so used to Dungeon World where I just kind of like let people kind of go with the thing. But let's use the mechanics, shall we? Everybody, roll initiative. So what you'll do is actually let me do this. I need to do one thing for you guys real quick.
right.
I will.
Right, you are, my love.
I will grab your tokens, and I'll bring them over to the little map area here where we're at. We can kind of stick with the theater of the mind for now.
And then you need to click your token and then click the inspiration thing on your
Correct.
character
So
sheet.
you all should automatically have
inspiration.
control of your tokens
Initiative.
now. So
So I click Grymand and then I what?
then you go to your character sheet, and on the middle top, there's the word initiative. Just click on that word. Oh, wait, hang on. Sorry.
You need to open it up or else.
Forgot to open that. There we go.
But
Deekin's
hey,
in there.
I'm already.
It worked.
It's-
Blammo.
There we go.
But I would say thematically we kind of have a sneak attack thing going here. So
Yeah, I think so.
Ooh.
I think that's good.
D20. Roll 20 likes me, apparently.
It's
I'm very
really-
confused.
It's digging on it. It's good. All right, Tambor's in there. All right, and Lady Sssibilant Regina is there as well. And let me get the Smurfs. I mean the.
correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like if I hopped up to any sort of action and made a motion, I feel like all my kobold buddies would probably hop up with me because they're kobolds, and that's what we do.
And
I
your
would
bros.
I would say, yeah, you had a pretty good, and they're friends at this point. They're maybe not gonna.
Depending on what I ask,
Yeah,
you know, they're not
exactly.
going to go stabbing people. But if I say, "Hey, help me keep these guys,"
They're up to
leaving,
no good.
Yeah,
And it's
especially after that nice song, moving everybody to tears for the missing people. So if I implied that somebody was,
possibly up to no good.
I'm loving this synergy we've got going on for this scene.
It is pretty sweet. It is pretty sweet. Okay, let me drop this in as descending, and we've got Grymand as first. And actually, with the dice roll, we have the bowler gang going last. I'm just kind of calling them that because of the bowler hats.
I like it.
Let's do it. So Grymand, you are up. You've cast your spell successfully. You've got them.
I've
got
been
them set up.
completely ridiculous.
You've been ridiculous.
So I'm figuring I didn't make it very far away from the door since, came in and Deekin scampered off and you two hatched a plot. So he just kind of went to the first convenient place to stand.
Right.
So he's actually not going to attack or anything. He's going to move to block the door.
Okay. All right. I think just kind of thinking about the distance involved, you could probably, just because you've got 30 feet of movement, right? For your Velociraptor. I mean your Dragonborn. So you got 30 feet of movement.
My Veloster.
You can. I think because you're kind of pressing through the crowd a little bit, it's kind of like a difficult terrain, but you have enough time to get to the door, and then you can hold an action if you want. Whether it's an attack, a grapple, something that effect. Yeah. Or a spell if you want to hold an action.
What I'm actually thinking is he will stand in front of the door, kind of, I don't want to say like leaning forward, but definitely in a prepared pose, like he's got his heart back on his hip, so his hands are free.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll stand there looking menacing, and who's next? Sybil is next, but I wouldn't know that. That's a thing. I'm gonna go with Tambor, since he was moving actively. I wanted to do Bardic Inspiration.
Okay.
So what he's going to do is he's going to stand with his elbows kind of cocked out and his fists kind of balled, like, he's going to take on anybody that challenges him. And he's going to hum, for lack of a better word. But because of the way his head is shaped, it kind of has a weird harmonics. It like resonates with itself.
Right.
And so it's just this low level kind of, the best I can think of is honestly
Resonate or resonance.
But okay, did any of you see the new Hobbit movies?
Sure.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, think of the dwarves singing in Bilbo's house, where you've got, yes. So you just got that kind of, you can feel it in your torso kind of humming, generating from him as he's looking intimidating and trying to be encouraging at Tambor.
Cool.
I'm encouraging you to be awesome.
Always, dude.
Love it.
So, real quick, how many of these spindle murders are there?
There's 4. 2 are knocked out. 2 are trying to make their escape.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you just call them spindle burners?
Spindle murders is what I couldn't remember. Too many syllables for me to actually recollect exactly how many or what the But
Smurf Zeppelins is what I have written down, so Spindle Burner works too.
Smurf Zeppelins.
Zeppelin.
I tried to put a V in there.
That's canon now. I'm all about it. The Smurf Zeppelins. Yep. Done and done. So good. All right. So yeah, so you're there, and you are, yeah, you're doing that. I think that totally works. So you're giving inspiration to the next player, Bardic.
I was actually going for Tambor specifically because he's the
kind of
one
heading
moving
that way.
forward.
And that works.
I don't know what Sssibilant wants to do.
That totally
Sssibilant,
works. So
sorry.
like, yeah, so that's kind of like directed, and it kind of resonates in your ears a bit, Tambor, as you're hearing it, and you actually feel your tambourine kind of starts to vibrate a bit with the tone coming from Grymand.
You feel all glowy inside.
Yeah.
I like it.
So my question, real quick, is how far did Grymand have to move to get to the door where he cast Fairy Fire?
I mean, Grymand cast Fairy Fire on himself already.
Yeah, so there
Before
was
the
about a
round,
5 foot
So I'd
area,
say,
but I don't know how far away from the door were you?
Well,
Because if it
I
were
would say
difficult
just-
terrain, then it was 15 foot to the door max.
yeah.
Yeah.
So he would
Probably
would have been
not
15
Fairy
feet.
Fire helping. Okay.
yeah, well, and the Fairy Fire probably would have actually already have gone out because it's a concentration spell, and I cast it, I caught the attention, and then I did message,
Okay. So
which means
so you just let
it didn't last. Yeah, it was literally
Okay,
just
just
to
making
catch
sure.
eyes.
Okay.
Because why would I use useful spells for useful things?
No, I'm just making sure that I don't have advantages here that I can.
Yeah,
Okay.
for
Oh,
sure.
I gotcha.
For
I
sure.
gotcha. Always hunt the advantage.
Heck yeah.
Just like in Star Wars, always hunt the boost.
That's right. Looking for it. Okay, who's up next?
I believe that's me.
That would be Lady Sssibilant. Regina, so what do you do now?
So Sssibilant points at one of them and just goes, I can't believe you'd be running away from this. What complete cowardice. And I'm using Vicious Mockery as part of that.
Oh, snap. Oh, snap. So, yeah, so you, what's the range on Vicious Mockery? Because you might not be able to get all the way there, but I think you're projecting your voice, right? So you've
Yeah,
got
it's
some
60
range.
feet.
Yeah, that's easy.
Nice rhyme, by the way.
Easy peasy. And I do dig it.
What's the effect?
All right,
There's
so
I just threw up a spell card for it.
nice. Thank you very much, Deekin.
It's just 2d4 damage if they fail their wisdom save.
All right, so let's do it. I will grab. I should have had a character sheet for them already, but
I love that if the target can hear you, though it need not understand you. So you can mock that gelatinous cube.
you could just mock it. All right, here we go.
I need to remember that from the inside.
Let's roll 1d20.
Well, viscous mockery would be what you would do to a gelatinous cube.
So there's the first one. He gets a
I was already-
13. What's my target number?
17.
17. All right. So wow. All right. So that's the first roll.
I think it's only one target.
Oh,
Yeah,
one
one.
saves. Oh, is it only one target?
Yeah.
I think so.
Oh, okay. All right. So yeah. So the first target doesn't save. So vicious mockery.
Roll 2d4.
Yeah. Give me the damage. All right. 6 points of damage. All right. Perfect. Got it. All right. So yeah. So it starts to like. So he starts
Psychic
to
damage.
Yeah, he starts to kind of like grab his head, and he's just trying to like figure out, oh my gosh, what the, and he's like he's tossing takes his head off, and he's trying to like rub it his the like sets of like little splotches of hair that he has on his head, and he's like kind of like rubbing at it and everything, and he's like, and the other one's like looking at him like what the hell's going on, and then pushes past him and tries to get out. So, or at least he will. So cool. Do you want to move anywhere? Do you want to move closer? Or are you going to stay with the vantage point?
I'll keep back to keep vantage, just so I
Okay.
can see everything.
All right, cool. That works. All right. So that brings us to Tambor.
So, I'll tell you just kind of role play perspective what I want to do, and then we'll figure out the rules of it. But so Tambor, seeing the other two beginning to flee, one of them kind of holding his head with some pain, he's gonna call out, oh, hang on, guys. Your friends are back here. There's no need to rush off like that. Let me help him out. So as he's doing that, he's got his tambourine in his hand. He's kind of shaking it as he's speaking. So I'm going to do charm person, and I'm going to do it in a 3rd level slot so I can hit both of them with it.
Okay.
But the DC is 14 on it. So can I roll a D8 and add that to the DC with the Bardic Inspiration?
No.
Because it says you can add a D8 to a saving throw within 10 minutes. So it's just kind of like the opposite direction.
Yeah, no, I don't think the rules allow for that.
So how else can I use the Bardic Inspiration in this circumstance?
If you need to do some sort of action.
Yeah, if you need to do an action of some.
But you have it for 10 minutes. So
yeah, I was going to
just
say
this
it's
moment.
not. Yeah, it's not gone by any stretch. So you've got it for 10 rounds here. So.
All right, so I'll click my charm person there. I don't think it.
Or more than 10 rounds, I should say.
Did that do anything?
All right, charm
I don't
person.
know how it works. So.
Didn't click. No worries, I can grab it here. Oh, what happened? There it is. All right, cool.
Yeah.
So we are going to be dealing with at higher level, 2nd, 3rd. All right. So what's my target number here?
14.
14.
Wisdom save. Yeah.
Wisdom save. So here we go for the first one. Nope. Negative. Second one. Oh my gosh, he crits.
Dude,
Well, which one was which?
you got robbed.
So which one? I think maybe the one who had just gotten hit with vicious mockery was the one who kind of like he's like shaking his eyes. He's trying to rub at his eyes and everything, and he's like he's using his hat to kind of like swat at his face, and he looks up and he sees Tambor kind of. You're kind of moving towards them, right?
Yeah,
Just
I'm
wanna
like
make
at
sure.
the table by now.
Yeah, so like you're over there and you're like, hey man, it's okay, calm it down, and like he looks up at you, and I think you recognize him. I think you recognize this guy.
It's Monica's brother.
Yeah, no. Well, you recognize him because of Monica, I think, is the thing. So yeah, so when you look over at him and you see him, it's his name is Amazus. Amazuus. And he looks up and he's like, "Quaggy, Tambor, is that you? Help me, man! Somebody hit me and my mates with something awful. What's happening?" And then,
So I go so this is the guy that's not charmed.
right. Well, no, this is the guy who is charmed.
Okay.
So the one who's not charmed looks over and says, "Amazus, what are you doing? Come over here. What are you doing? Tambor, what's going on here?" And he's seeing Ssibilant up there. He's seeing Grymand coming towards them. He's looking back at the 2 sleeping Smurf Zeppelins at the table. And he's like, no, something's going on here. Come on, Amazus, come on. And Amazus is like shrugging him off, like, "No, man, it's okay. It's okay.
So can I use
one of our
Bardic
friends."
Inspiration for a bonus action then?
No, inspiration only gives you advantage on rolls.
Okay.
So, I mean, you were already kind of moving towards this direction. So, I mean, you've got a movement left. If you want to talk, you can talk. Talking is a free action, but I don't know. What are you looking to try and do?
I'm just trying to kind of, what I'll do since I don't have, I was just reading Bardic Inspiration. It is a bonus action, so that confused me. I'm just going to, so the other one that's being resistant, what's his name?
The other guy's name is Sssibilant.
Sssibilant. Okay, so behind a Sssibilant is Grymand, right?
Correct. So like he hasn't even looked back and seen him. Yeah.
Well, that, and we established when we walked into this place that some of the people near the very front were the kobolds with their coffee spigot.
Right.
So
I'm just gonna walk toward a Sssibilant basically to make sure he doesn't slap around Amazus and break his charm.
Right.
So I'm just gonna kind of get between the two of them, and I'm like, "Hey, man, why are you trying to rush out? I mean, we just wanted to talk for a second."
He's like kind of holding his hands up and everything, and his kind of grayish skin is a little bit pale, and you can tell he's pretty afraid. And he looks over and he says, "Somebody done magic this here. Try to put us to sleep."
I don't know what you're talking about, man. Just settle down. Let's get you a cup of coffee. So, no, that wouldn't work. Let's just have.
So, all right, so that's Tambor. Now, Deekin, roughly at the same time, what are you doing? If we're kind of rolling with initiative here for a moment.
So, what I would have been doing is getting a couple of the kobold buddies and kind of trying to like subtly move myself in between the door and the Sssibilant Zeppelin, and just kind of be there and ready, kind of a grapple.
Okay.
I don't necessarily want to like lash out yet, but just be ready, because little bitty lizards that you don't see suddenly can be quite effective unseen. So
Got it.
Nobody expects the Cobalt Inquisition.
No, they don't.
Nope.
They don't.
Also, Patrick, make sure you only used a level 2 spell slot for that charm person.
Oh, that's all you needed, yeah.
Or,
That
not
was,
Patrick, sorry, Jason.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is there an action that you want to take, or you're like a readied action or a hold action?
Just move to in between the basically where Grymand is and Sssibilant, and just ready a grapple. If he shows himself to be continually or increasingly belligerent, I'll use some physical force to try to hold him still. Not like tackle grapple, just like, hey,
Right.
grab his wrist
Gotcha.
and ankles.
All right, so I think Sssibilant, he's looking at you, and he's looking at Tambor, and he's looking at Grymand, who's kind of like this wall in front, right? And so the talking is good. So he looks over at Grymand, and he says, "No, we've got to get over here. There's something wonky's going on." And he flings his hands up towards Grymand, to this tall, statuesque velociraptor. I'm just kidding. A dragonborn, and he all of a sudden, there's like this kind of like flash of purplish light that comes from his fingertips, and it like sinuouses out like almost like a weird looking coiling smoke of light smoke. And what ends up happening is you're getting zapped around your eyes, and I'm gonna need you to give me a Constitution saving throw, if you would please.
Yeah, no, because I'm totally awesome.
You are totally awesome, and DC is 11, so it's pretty quick, pretty doable.
Do I just click Constitution for this?
There should be a
Constitution saving throw?
saving throw. Yeah, you want to click the saving throw side.
Click. I want to watch it.
Oh,
Stupid
nice.
Things in the way.
Nice.
I
I
won.
literally can't see my rolls.
Oh,
You
the
can
turn order
drag
here,
your character sheet to be off of, like, not on top of the
I'll move
sidebar.
Actually, it was the
Alright.
turn order that was blocking.
I moved the turn order there, so it'll get out of the way. Okay, so so these like kind of coiling purplish smoky lights that are coming from his fingertips, they zap into your eyes, and you feel like a cloud kind of going over your eyes to where darkness starts to kind of pinwheel down to little pinpricks, and then all of a sudden you shake your head, and you're able to kind of like let it pass, and you're not hit with the blindness spell, as it were. So
Not cool, man. Not
yeah,
cool.
and like he's like looking at you like, and he apparently you can still see. So he's gonna try, and he sees that, and then he's gonna try and just run past you. So I think you get a free action if you want to grapple them to put hands on it. And I think between you and Deekin, you guys can give yourselves advantage on that.
Is that a strength check?
I believe so. Let's take a look. Combat, grappling. When you want to grab a creature, you can use the attack action to make a special melee attack grapple. Target grapple, blah, blah, blah. Using at least one free hand, do a strength athletics check, contested by the target's strength athletics, or dexterity acrobatics, whichever is higher.
Acrobatics.
There
I'm
you
gonna
go.
let Deekin go first because in
Oh my
theory
gosh,
he's
I rolled
between
bad.
us.
That may be enough, but I rolled bad.
Well, yeah, you never know. You never know. Let's see. Let me grab the.
I have a +9 to acrobatics. That's why I say that.
Got it. No worries. All right, so he's gonna probably use strength because these guys are pretty darn.
And he's a little bit
durable.
panicky.
Yeah, so he's kind of like no, and so let me. There we go, and that is a +2. There we go. He does not. He does not do well. He does not. You've got a hold of him, and I think about that time the crowd is kind of like murmuring, and they're starting to kind of come out of the enthrall. People are kind of dabbing their eyes, and they're seeing like some kind of scuffle going on. But I think from the top of the window, you hear the voice of Kazim saying, What's going on, man? Why are you all messing about? And I think maybe like we see him kind of standing at the window. He's got the window like propped up all the way, and he's like just kind of leaning out, and he's looking at the door, and he's looking at the Deacon's like kind of struggling with this Smurf Zeppelin, and has him tied up. So I think we'll go to black there, and we'll come back for our next episode soon.
Iris out.
And we'll iris out on that on this stunning turn of events. Smurf Zeppelin attack. All right.